Promise me. Promise me.
All right, we're live. Welcome, everybody, to the Casually Hardcore podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brian. Joining me in my co-pilot chair, we have Chris.
Hello.
And joining us again, second time on the podcast, Thamriyell from YouTube fame. I think you just hit a huge milestone on YouTube. Care to share, Tham?
Yeah, 30K subs, but I mean, who's counting? We're gonna, it's gonna just go from there.
YouTube is counting.
No, congratulations, man. So,
Thank you.
I like to think that we had some help. I'm just teasing. Because, like, when we were on the podcast last time, you were around 27,000. So I was like, congratulations, man.
You have
that
3
is some
subscribers
awesome
from this group right here. One from Works a Game, and one from me and Brian. We couldn't have done it without us 3.
Couldn't have done it without.
That's
But
awesome. Thank you, though.
Obviously, today's podcast is focusing on patch 4.3, as well as what we're playing, and a couple of various things. We're gonna, try not to go all over the place, but there is so much to talk about in the world of video games, especially as we lead into E3 2018. And with that, let's talk about our first kind of general topic, which is what we're playing, and I'm going to add in what we're excited about. So for Tham, what are you playing, and then what are you looking forward to at this year's E3? Like, is there anything that you're either excited about or hope they announce? Take it any which way you want. And of course, there is a notification. We tested. What is it up? Okay, so thank you, Kinsey, for the follow. All right, go ahead and take over, Tham. I'm gonna let you run with it.
Yeah. I've been playing, actually finished Destiny, the original campaign. They had a good deal on it in Humble Bundle, so...
Yeah, $12 I saw, yeah.
Yeah. So I decided to take a opportunity of it, finish the campaign. It was quite something. I had kind of mixed feelings about it, but overall was pretty flashy and visually, in a technical scale, really pretty. I've been playing ESO. I've been playing the early access to the Summerset DLC. I'm going to be getting into that as well. And just been mostly running around VR chat and doing weird shenanigans.
So I have a question about Destiny 2 then. So you did the campaign. Have you followed the drama behind that game at all?
Yes, I actually been watching y'all's videos about it, as well as other commentators about it. And in regards to the lack of content and what the game is going through compared to the first game and everything, and the locking out of content through the DLC, and DLC actually being part of the game already as is, just being locked away behind a paywall and stuff like that, it's definitely a concern. But I just wanted to play the game out and see what it's like. And on a technical scale, it's pretty. Story-wise, I kind of wasn't really hooked, unfortunately. I felt like there were a little bit too many set pieces. It took itself a little too seriously while also trying to be, funny, quirky. Haha, we got a quirky character, K86, he has a chicken and stuff. It's like, oh wow, he's being funny. It's like watching a Marvel film where it's like it's a little bit predictable, but it's like it's still bombastic and pretty interesting. So the story didn't really catch me, but the gameplay and the shooting, not the AI in particular, but the guns, the variety and abilities and stuff, that was pretty interesting.
That's what I was telling Chris about, because he's like, because I bought all of it back when it came out. So several in the community kept inviting me back. They're like, Brian, Warmind's out. Will you come play it and see what you think? Because you left, and I left for the reasons, namely because they locking people out of content, which they're not really longer doing that, which is a step in the right direction. But it's still like, you still did it. Like, you still you stabbed me, and I know you apologized and you offered me some kind of band-aids, but it's like, well, I don't know if you're going to do this again. I don't know if because you got slapped, if you're really trying to be the best version of who you can be in this case. So, yeah. But like Chris asked how it is, and I was like, it's not good, but the gameplay is so good. It's like, the game in and of itself is like, why do they do this? They're running Iron Banner right now, and it's 6v6, so they brought that back. That seems fun. But they also introduced this Valor, because I'm all about the PvP. I mean, when it comes down to it, I always enjoy that competitive aspect in games. But they introduced Valor and Glory. Two great systems, ranking up, having a great time, really able to really get this going. But then in Iron Banner, there's no Valor increase, which just goes up or, more if you win and less if you lose. But it's like, okay, now if I was trying to play and get better Valor, now I have to, I want to do the Iron Banner. It just is like, come on. People are hoping for September to be some kind of massive fix. And I'm sure September is going to fix a lot, but it's going to introduce so many new problems. And when it comes down to competition, I just can't see myself finding time to play that game, because we'll have 4.4 in around September. We'll have all these other games that it's like, what would I rather do? And
we should know more about Halo 6 by then.
Yeah.
Gearbox might be willing to tell us about Borderlands by then, since they're not going to tell us at E3. Those are all things outside of the Destiny universe working against them.
Now, Tham, we've had a conversation regarding ESO, and I'll toss to Chris on what he's playing here in a second, but we both got invited to check out the new ESO expansion. I just have not had any time, and I asked if I could play it on Xbox, because I have ESO on my Xbox, and I was like, okay, I'll check it out. They're like, PC only. I'm like, well, I have a PC that can run it. I just don't have really time to set up and play, but I was curious, because we talked offline about it. Did you go and check out the ESO preview for their new expansion? It's Summerset, right?
Yeah, Summerset.
Okay.
I was not allowed to stream stories, so I decided not to even spoil it for myself, but running around the island, it's beautiful. It is the most colorful, most pristine, just stellar zone you've ever seen in all of Elder Scrolls. Not even kidding you. It is bright, has amazing color palette. It's bright, juicy, just everything just feels pleasant when you run around it. You even see some majestic griffins on the side just chilling. You get a little too close, they decide to attack you, but still, it's a really, really beautiful.
Realistic.
has some amazing visuals just overall on its own. Has things about the Sigic Order, which I know was covered a little bit before in previous games, like Skyrim for the Mages Guild and stuff like that, and being able to join part of the Sigic Order and get these abilities. Some of these abilities are very overpowered, such as the ultimate is called Undo, right? It resets everything, your health and your position, as well as any other resource that you spend, except potions and stuff, 4 seconds back. So let's say, for example, you are right on the brink of death, you use Undo, just undoes everything as well as your position. Or you can jump off a cliff, survive just barely enough, undo, you're back up on top of a cliff.
Just bind that to Control Z.
The abilities are overpowered in such a way that people are going to need to run them in PvP and PvE, but the new builds are going to be able to make with this new Sigic Order abilities is going to be rather interesting, because a lot of mechanics to the game that never really been there. Well, partially been there before, but with a different spin. One ability has the ability to just stun an AoE area with everybody nearby. It literally freezes them in place. It's going to be kind of cool to see how it's implemented, but when it comes to making builds in ESO, you got to swap out one ability for another, so you're always giving something up to have something else gained. So it's going to be interesting what players and theory crafters will be able to craft. But overall, the place is beautiful. I just wish it had dungeons. It really has just story mode, Sigic Order, and a raid. But that's about it.
Okay.
No new classes, no new races, no nothing. It's just a pretty place to go around and explore. That's about it. Otherwise, it's pretty nice. It's beautiful.
That's high praise, I would say, because I know that you had your video last year regarding should you return to ESO.
Oh, yeah. Jesus.
That did real well for you. I was like, wow, what a great video.
Ridiculously well.
So that's great. That's great to hear. Chris was like, are you going to go check it out? It's like, if I can, right now find the time. And so that's why I want to toss over to Chris on the question of what you're playing. And then essentially there's the general theme of returning to video games, returning to ESO. I've, somewhat returned to Destiny.
Yeah.
Not publicly. I'm not going to cover it on the channel, but Chris, hit us up. What you playing?
As a Mac player, I can't try ESO. I can't get into the beta because it is PC only. So I have been prepping for Battle for Azeroth with it right around the corner. I am coming up on my 4th 110, and then my 5th is not that far behind. We're about to finish up, about to move into Burning Crusade with it, and it's leveling decently fast. So I'm having a lot of fun prepping for everything there. I am actually going back at this point, and I'm comfortable enough with where I'm at in Legion content that I'm actually going back and I'm knocking out a bunch of Draenor stuff to just kind of round out the expansion that I missed because I quit in Pandaria. And then I have been playing a lot more 14, like a crazy amount of 14. I've leveled my first tank to cap. I just tanked attempts on extreme of the new trial today.
Oh, yeah.
So I have progressed a lot since we last saw Thamriyell. My paladin is about to hit 60, and then I'll move over to Dark Knight so I can round them all out sometime before 5.0.
Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. So as far as it goes, though, returning, like you returned to WoW, and then Tham, you've returned to ESO a little bit, as a part of that, and I've returned to Destiny. The question I guess I propose to the group is just a thought: is that what has that? Like what causes that within us? Is it some form of nostalgia? Is it some form of redemption? Is it I'd love to know y'all's thoughts. We'll start with you, Tham. Is there any idea regarding that?
Well, it started with a little email from Bethesda PR saying, "Hey, Thamriyell, we know you made some videos before about ESO and everything, so we want to try to give you a little access to the same, then a little early access to Summerset, and maybe see if it can work in the future." So I'm like, okay, I'll give it a go. But then I played it for a little bit, I streamed it, and then I found myself actually playing it off stream, just kind of exploring some of the areas, doing the bosses, trying to do these world events and learn a little bit more about these new abilities for the Sigic Order and the passives and new builds and everything. And it just kind of made me realize, hey, ESO is actually really fun.
Mm-hmm.
It has lots of dialogue. Every single NPC has some sort of a dialogue, no matter what. They always have something to tell you verbally instead of just showing text.
They did a good job with that. Yeah,
they do some amazing stuff, like voice acting. 9 out of 10 it's perfect, except the 1 out of 10 times where it's not really as good. But overall, like as a baseline, it's pretty nice to have every single NPC have some sort of a voice. So you come up to them, you press the E or the action button, and they either say something or they open up a dialogue menu and actually engage with you in a conversation or progress in a storyline and something.
Okay.
It's the amount of care that was put into ESO makes me appreciate the amount of work that ZeniMax Online have done. The ZeniMax Studios, the particular studios just for ESO have done in order to not give up on the game compared to its original release. Because the original release, pretty garbled, pretty terrible. But they came back and they stuck with it, and they actually made it good, and even released the console ports as well. And while those may not be perfect, they still they're showing their work. They're trying to make it good.
So Chris, what brings you back to World of Warcraft?
I think the question is, the real question behind this is well, why did you leave a game?
Mm-hmm.
So like the reason I didn't go back to Destiny is because they disappointed me directly. The reason I didn't go back to ESO is because the beta doesn't run on my machine. But the reason that I actually did go back to WoW is I never left WoW because I was upset with WoW.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even really done with WoW. It's an incredibly broad game. There's a ton to do. It's super fun, but it's fun with friends. And so as my friends pivoted to other games, I eventually just followed them. I couldn't keep up with progression groups, and my real life friends weren't playing it anymore. So I ended up moving, and that's what brought me to 14 is that's where I had friends that played. So I've come back to play with some of those friends, and I've come back to kind of enjoy that. And I think a lot of what brought me back is actually our YouTube channel, because as we talk about 14, it just kept showing up in the comments like, well, this is different in WoW, and this is different in WoW. And it's like, well, how is it different? Because eventually I'd been gone long enough that like my knowledge of WoW isn't really relevant anymore.
Right. You've got the mounts like that are like so like rare, and things that you did back when you were at all the time in the world. And then, in college, you're like, yeah, I got these things. They're so rare. And it's like, so you come back and you got all this really great stuff. But then it's like, yeah, wait, it's like a whole new game to me.
What's artifact power? I don't even know what that is. It's like a basic currency now. I have no idea how that works. So I had to come back and kind of learn all that. That's been a blast.
Okay, well, I think for me, though, I feel in line with Thamriyell. Like, the only reason I went back to check out Destiny 2 is because several people, messaged me directly and asked me, because it's like, I left and I'm very disappointed. I still feel that. Like, it's like I'm not spending a lot of time with it. I'm just like, from the gameplay perspective, the pure PvP perspective, like, I'm good and I'm having fun with it. But as far as it goes, like, it's not anything that I'm just like, okay, I'm going to cover on the channel anymore, because I don't see a future for Destiny 2. And that's, as far as the franchise goes, I don't see a future for that franchise unless they can do the ultimate, sacrificial, turnaround and really redeem themselves in this case. And it's nothing against the hard work people at Bungie, and even Activision. I know a lot of people like to throw like, oh, Activision greed and blah blah blah. It's like, at the end of the day, I don't care. They're not coming. I'm volunteering my money. It's not like they're coming and robbing me at gunpoint, saying that I have to spend this money. And so as far as it goes, when I look at it, I look at when we take it down to 14, both had these interestingly weird launches, and 14 2.0 is like, I think what all in the industry needs to look at when it comes to launching and building that game. And then you look at Destiny, and they went the complete opposite direction, and obviously that is is what's caused a lot of issues. I don't know if they can get me back, but it's like it cost me nothing. I've already pot committed, like, all right, well, the only thing I'm out is the experience to see if they're going in any kind of right direction. And that's generally what the community keeps saying. It's like it's a step in the right direction, it's a step in the right direction. It's like, yeah, but at some point, like, there's a lot of things that are competing for my time, and I think that's just a general thing. 4.3, which we're about to just dive into head first on, as a good topic transition. And it's like, where would I rather spend my time? And the answer is with my friends. I'd rather play, with my friends. I wish Thamriyell was on Aether.
Yeah. Sorry, y'all.
Well, no, it's not. It's good that you're on Primal, because I know we have a lot of people.
I apologize.
We have a lot of people who come on our stream and stuff like that, or like, hey, we're in we're on Primal. It's like, okay, good. There's different creators and different people who can you can be able to play with and have fun with, etc. Mm-hmm. But with that out of the way. That's what we're playing, guys. That's what and that's kind of the general question about, like, I guess I'd leave that to you in chat as well as into the comments below. Like, are there games that you left that you've returned to, that you were either surprised by or that you're excited to actually return back again? Because especially when it comes to persistent games like ESO, Final Fantasy, Destiny, Division. Right. There's so many out there that they're not set in stone. Like, in 2 years, it could be a whole different experience, maybe worth your time. So I'd love to know what y'all's thoughts are regarding that. So sound off again in the comments below, and we'll have that conversation over on YouTube when this goes live up there tomorrow. So 4.3, guys, it's out. I like Thamriyell's expression. I don't know if it's a good one or a bad one. He's like,
no, it's good. It's good.
I have to say,
how spoiler can we get here?
So, for everybody who's watching, we're going to do spoilers at the end of our conversation. So that's really related to story, obviously the trial. Okay. We're going to save that, and what we'll do is we'll say, hey, we're entering in spoiled territory. That's a good point too. So for when I'm editing this, we'll timestamp it so that there's a, like, guys, like, at this point, spoiler zone, etc. But as far as that goes, everything is on plate. So impressions of the dungeon. We could talk about impressions of the trial in non-story or revealing way. Okay. So just try to hold your tongue. No names, nothing like that. But overall, like, if you guys are spoiled by the fact that we're going back to Ivalice, just be warned that if you are super sensitive to spoilers, I feel like we should be able to talk about the raid and things like that.
Yeah, it was mentioned in the live letter. We know the theme of Ivalice. We know that it's going to be 3 parts and that this was part 2. We knew all that before the patch went live. So that is not a spoiler in my mind. So
we'll start obviously with like gameplay systems, quality of life, things like that, and then we'll move further into the content. So guys, just we're gonna again we'll say when we're going into spoiler mode, but my definition of spoilers might not be your definition of spoilers. So just if you're very sensitive to them, go play the game and come back and watch the rest of the podcast at here on YouTube. Because we love that. We love your thoughts, especially after the fact. So without further ado, Tham, what is your talk to me about overall impressions of patch 4.3? Obviously, these are the big ones. We get like usually 3 or 4, ideally a year. Now we're kind of in the mid part of Stormblood. It's almost a year now. Yeah.
I was a little bit nervous when I first read the patch notes. The red text at the top, it said like, hey, we're going to be getting some, the ultimate is going to be coming out patch 4.31. Heal Demand's going to be coming out 4.35. And then the 2 afterwards kind of left me a little nervous because they were saying the Deep Dungeon is going to be coming out patch 4.35 as well. And then Eureka, the next part of Eureka, is going to be coming out 4.36. And it kind of made me thinking, okay, we're going to get the story. we got the dungeon, we got the trial, we got the 24-man, we got the beast tribes, and some other little things in between. Is that gonna be enough? Are we gonna be waiting for about a month and a half here for next batch of Deep Dungeon? What's going on here, Square? Come on. You're in an indie company. Give us something. Give us one or the other. Give us one or the other. I'm going to be only farming the trial on expert for so long before I get bored of it, if I ever do get bored of it. Because the music in there is, it's masterpiece. Visually, it's also a masterpiece. Not going to spoil what is, but it's visually and audio.
Yeah,
it's pleasing. It's better than ASMR. I'm going to be farming the mount and the weapons there for only so long. And aside from doing the trial, I'm going to be probably going back to Deep Dungeon to get some of the mats for the new outfit that I have, the really summery dress outfit and all that. My buddy really wants to get it, so I'm going to be getting that for everybody within EFC. And aside from the Beast Tribes, there's not going to be much to do except try to farm glamour from the new dungeon, the Swallow's Compass, because the coats and the armor in that does look pretty cool, not gonna lie. The caster coat in particular, masterpiece. Wow, it looks so good.
Yeah, the gear design in this patch is I think far superior than what we've seen.
It is nice. It's weird, but it's nice kind of weird. It's like whenever if you ever play caster whatsoever in 14, if you ever see the helmets for the new dungeon, it literally has just horns made out of flame on the actual the headpiece. It's good. It's actually really nice looking. It's unique. Each and every piece is similar, but it has its own unique little characteristics, which is what I really like. They got this continuity going on here for the gear this time around. It's really, really nice. It really fits the roles and different aspects. Like the physical range are going to be getting a certain piece, the physical melee are going to be getting another certain piece, and it's going to have similar characteristics but with slight adjustments to its own, just little flares here and there. But overall, I loved the story. It was really solid, really enjoyable, with a lot of surprises for me personally. The trial, in normal, I've even found it challenging, which is really nice. It's a nice wake-up call. It's not like, going through Byakko, and, Byakko is fairly easy on normal. This one is actually kind of challenging because you get a bunch of mechanics thrown in at you, and the expert is so fun. Oh my god. I accept my masochistic side because I love going through it and just getting wipes after wipes because I get to learn something about it.
I actually wish expert had
so cool.
extra. I wish expert was harder.
If there was expert extra mode, ooh, I would go for that.
No handrail.
Exactly.
Knock me off.
Let's see. I'm gonna be doing the beast tribe whenever I get my botanist up, but otherwise I don't really know. I mean, first couple of days fun, but maybe I'll say something different in a week, after already do it. Maybe in a month it's gonna be like, okay, what is the new thing, Square? Come on, let's do it, let's get it on. Come on, ipsy, let's get it going. How long are we gonna have to wait until Deep Dungeon? If we got either Deep Dungeon or Eureka as part of 4.3 release, I probably would not even have any complaints because I'd have plenty to do. I'd have more than enough to do either in Deep Dungeon or Eureka, and then by the time the other piece of content comes out in 4.35 and all that, it'd be perfect. It would be a nice balance.
Yeah, I feel that exactly the same way, but go ahead.
Hopefully the trial will keep me interested enough to farm up the mounts and the weapons and everything to maybe keep me satisfied until the release of Deep Dungeon, but we'll see. What about you?
I think it's also the trial and the raid. I think that they're banking on those two pieces of content, which if you think about it, those are two very difficult, followed by, and I'll let you go, Chris, I know you got some thoughts, followed by with the 0.1, so the next patch is going to release Ultimate. So if you think about it, the first part of 4.3 is like, here's all the difficult content, and then the mid patch is here's more of the kind of the casual content. Not saying that the Deep Dungeon is not going to be difficult past floor 31. They're saying 31 to 100, good luck, kind of thing. Yeah. But then also then you have Eureka, which is that grind. The difficulty comes in. Well, I mean, we're assuming the grind. We don't know what other things are changing, but I'm with you on that as somebody who actually has not played every piece of the new patch. But I know, Chris, you put 12 hours into it on patch day.
I played 14 hours of 14 on day one.
All right.
I'll look clocked in like 8.
So Chris, what are your thoughts? What's your impressions?
So there's two ways to view 4.3. In the context of the 4.0 series, I think it is hitting on all cylinders. I think The 4.2, especially when you talk about as a whole, so 4.2, 4.25, the whole 2 series, they took a lot of risks and they split the community a lot of ways, and a lot of people were upset. Point 1, in my opinion, mostly felt like stuff that probably should have been there at launch, and so it just kind of felt like Stormblood felt a little slow out of the gate. It was so beautiful that I think they had me wooed. So I was like, oh, I love this. I love the new types of dungeons and all that. And then somewhere through point 1, I was like, wait a second. There are things missing. And so point 3 really felt like the first real patch to me. It felt like the first time that Stormblood is hitting on all cylinders. And then you go back and you compare it to 3.3, and I was like, there's that wait a second feeling again, because it really is. It's an incredible patch. It's really well done. But when you check off all the boxes, it is almost identical to 3.3. It's time for a new deep dungeon to be updated. It's time for our beast tribes with crafters. It's time for it's just that time in the expansion. So it's very formulaic, but that doesn't mean that they didn't do a good job. The story was a lot of fun, had way more cutscenes than I need. The dungeon is wonderful. It's just hard enough. It's not going to stop people from clearing it, but it does keep you at least at least one hand on the keyboard. And the trial's incredible, and the raid was fantastic.
Oh, the music though. Oh, it's so good.
The dungeon, I really enjoyed actually how that we ended up jumping, into the outside, world a bit, and that gave me the feeling of Zephatal, and I'm probably butchering the name, but y'all remember that from Heaven's Word, where you're outside, and so there's that kind of piece from the content. Obviously, that one being a main story dungeon, this one being kind of a part of the Four Lords side story kind of thing, and that's one of the number one questions we ended up getting on the dungeon guide is like, hey, how do I unlock this? And it's like, well, you got to advance so far in the main story, and then you offshoot into the Four Lords, which you have Hell's Lid, and now the new dungeon, Swallow's Compass. And I think visually, Swallow's Compass, so for me, the content that I've done is I've cleared the main story, and I've done the new dungeon. I've unlocked the raid. I have yet to play the raid. These guys, too. Thamriyell, you've done the raid, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay, good. So at least y'all are be able to provide some insight on that. And so it's and then as far as it goes, some of the quality of life things that they've added that, I've really enjoyed, to be able to recover, your items out of your glamour chests, all of these little kind of, nice pieces. We still haven't got the mobile app, and that's another one, number of questions that we keep getting. I don't know if you've gotten that as well. It's hey, they were saying that it was coming with 4.3. I'm assuming maybe here in a week or two that we'll see some kind of announcement, but we're supposed to be getting the companion app.
Did we say 4.3? We meant 5.3.
5.3. Or I hope not. Oh my goodness, that'd be insane. I think overall, my concern from the patch itself is that repeatable content. I think it's great that we got the Beastmen. I think that you see a lot more people out in the open world, but I think it still continues to underscore, really highlight the fact that there is a serious lack of open world content with this game, and not that has to be the primary part, but you see when these Beastmen come out, people are out there and it's exciting and it's fun, and people are, those worlds, those zones are so incredibly gorgeous. And then once you cap and once you've done that stuff and you don't need to do it anymore, it's just, it just dies up. So the question is that obviously when you look at any kind of particular patch that Final Fantasy XIV brings, and the quality and the consistency and the quantity of content, it's always really overwhelming at first, and then it kind of settles down into that thing, and then we get new stuff. So I think my main disappointment was that Heaven on High was not put in with this as an option for players that you don't want to do the raid yet, or you want to participate in this, because then you have you have Eureka that's their mid thing. But I think honestly, one of the best takeaways that I was really, really excited about is to see the UI changes for the Feast. I don't know if anybody here PvPs, but the UI changes with the Feast have really made it just so much more entertaining and easy to when you look over the battlefield. When you're participating in the fight, that you're sitting here great, because the UI element that they had was just the worst. Now you have a nice little scoreboard up at the top, breaks it up, who's winning, who's losing, what team you're on. I was like, yes, I'm understanding so much more about the Feast here just with that small change. just with that piece of it. All in all, I don't think I'm under. I think maybe I'm been a little bit more hard on 14 lately, and so I'm not necessarily all that impressed with the patch itself. I think it is it hits all, like Chris says, it hits all the notes. It does everything it needs to do right. But we're not taking risks, and we're not. And Chris said that 4.2 they took a risk with Eureka. I've expressed my feelings about that and what I want to see, changed. It's not the content; it's the quality of life. Some of the systems that need to be in place for it. But all in all, like I'd say I really enjoyed the story after a point, and we'll talk about that later. What that point was. Before I thought it was just people were like, "Oh, spoilers!" It was like nothing here is not like they've already told us this is happening, and they told us in the trailer. It's like, so that's just where I'm coming from. I'm really excited to actually get to run the raid. I just have been so busy with work that it's like, all right, I might do that this weekend. But I love the dungeon.
4.4 looks good.
4.4.
I will say 4.3 sets 4.4 up in a good spot.
Yeah, and that's where, when you look at, that's what I'm saying. Like, there was a point, and all of a sudden I was like, okay, now you've got my attention. Now I'm actually enjoying this, because now it feels like we're doing something that's meaningful, and there's a threat, as opposed to, okay, yeah, all right. There's some comedy there.
Just little things, right? Like the achievements. Now there's that little thing that tells you, are there achievements you're close to, are there achievements in your zone? Does that mean that in 4.4 and 4.5 we could see a massive overhaul to the achievement system?
Yeah, I hope so.
The challenge log got a lot bigger this time.
The challenge log with Eureka has been a huge help. I know, like, we're talking with the community, people are jumping up in levels with that challenge log itself. Helps kind of break up what's going on, and that's one of the things that people wanted. It's like, can we have a challenge? Like, can we have like other little things to do outside of just waiting around? Oh, NM, let's go.
I've tried Eureka 2 days, one at launch and one this week, and both times I felt exactly the same. Why am I here?
Yeah. Anyway, so I
had a blast with that personally.
Well, yeah, and it's not that that's bad, and I'm glad actually, Thamriyell, that you're liking it. I felt like I fell in the middle ground. I was like, there's just things that I need based off of my schedule, like a level sync. It's like I don't want to sit here and just stand around, because if I'm going to do that, I'm just going to go play another game. Right now, like, or I'm going to go spend time with my family. Or like Netflix and do this, like I'll play and then watch a movie or something like that, which is what you did in 11. But like, so I've kind of fallen middle ground. I'm just like, there's just some things I need. Challenge log is definitely one of them. It just adds in that additional variety to the content that I think a lot of people were hoping for. But Tham, what are your thoughts? Like you said, you've enjoyed it. Have you like, how much time have you spent in Eureka?
Oh boy. Majority of my time when it first came out. I don't know. I just, every single morning was a Eureka morning. We just went to Eureka and just farmed everything. And now, before patch 4.3 came out, I would sometimes step my foot lightly in Eureka, and it was always probably just a good RNG, but I was always lucky, because every single time I step my foot in, it's like you see the alerts, Pazuzu spawn. So I'm like, okay, I'll go get some feathers. So I have just a bunch of feathers lying around at my retainer, just doing nothing. They're just collected just in case I want to spend it for the new relics. So maybe I want to get the other relics. I got relics for the weapons that I've really truly cared for, so I'm personally fine with that. I'd need to come back to Eureka, but every now and then I come back and like, hey, but Pazuzu spawn, I'm like, okay, let's go get some feathers, yay. But overall, it's been pretty fun. It just kind of spending some quality time with FC members and just chilling with them and just running around parties, or even joining up with a couple of friends from across the data center, and be able to just run around and do some challenges here and there, and just honestly talk. That's it.
Are you using your Crossroad link shell?
I just set it up yesterday. I haven't used it much, but I want to experiment with it and actually start implementing it for either do like groups and stuff, or maybe set it up as more of a community link shell, so people across the data center can actually party up together and do content together, rather than using it really for myself in particular.
Right.
We do people on Discord that are part of the Prima data center that don't play on my server Exodus, that I would like to play with other people. So there could be a nice way to connect people together into this one link shell. in order to allow them to party up together, as well as maybe I can be like, hey guys, we're gonna be doing the new trial expert. Anybody want to come in? Anybody know the fight? So we're gonna try to farm it whenever we clear it, and have people join up and join in. Having an easy way to invite people is always really nice. So I'm glad they implemented it. I'm still gonna have to tinker with it a little bit more. I know nothing about link shells whatsoever. I just joined link shells and I'm like, okay, somebody else manage it. I don't know. I'm gonna go do a hunt or something.
Go ahead, Chris.
So going into 4.4, so the quality of life changes, I guess, to kind of continue on with 4.3, where I think it's headed is I think that we're starting to see them do things like they're breaking up the NM trains. They put more into the challenge log with Eureka. It was kind of a lazy implementation in that it's like, oh, kill the things, kill more of the things. But at least it was a step in that direction. I think what I would like to see them do is focus more on replayability of existing content. They've proven that they can come out with good content. The trial's incredible, but the problem is now that I play the trial and I play the new dungeons, when you go do a roulette and you get tossed into old stuff, it feels really stale. And it feels stale to the point where yesterday I got in a roulette and people were wiping on level 50 content. There was no reason for that because there just isn't any reason to pay attention. And we still got the clear. Like a bunch of people die and we still get the clear because it's fine. So I would love to see the challenge log get expanded. I don't know if that's where your conversation's going. I don't know if you have the prompts written down, Brian, but I would love to see the challenge log and Eureka going into the rest of 4.3. I think it's nice that they broke the content up because it should keep people relatively entertained to 4.4. But I would love to see them focus on getting people back out in the world. Azim Step feels great, but the rest of the zones still kind of
that's been my number one thing that I've voiced both in videos and things like that I like to see. It's that they have fates. Why not make fates also worth something at Endgame? Why not provide some kind of incentive? Why not take leaves and turn them into Endgame leaves in which that you can spend 100 of your licenses and have some kind of Diablo Rift system which you go until you can't go anymore, that's taking place in the open world. So that way there's also a spectacle that you see people participating in this content. One of the things they did, like if you think of Eureka versus the previous relics, is literally that they had always that first step of the fates. So all of a sudden, whenever they would drop, you would just see the open world come alive because people would go do fate grinding. Now it's off in Eureka, which I think is a better implementation overall because it's newer content, it's fresh. It's not like, hey, you're just gonna go run these old fates in this like level 5 fate in this zone and for hours on end in hopes that you get this one item, etc., and do that to kind of incentivize the open world. But it's that outside of that, like they could still use the systems that they've built and the content they have with the concepts of Mythic, like put in modifiers, let it always be at the level cap, and then you can always this week's modifiers are this. And then I would personally love to see, and I think this is. I'm going to we're going to go around and talk about the different content, give it a score, and then we'll shift into story conversation. But like all in all, like I would love to see PvE seasons. We have PvP seasons with the feast. I'd love to see some kind of concept of PvE where it's like over the course of 4.3 to 4.4, that's a season, and then at the end of the season, it's like here's everything you did. Here's all of your stats and your breakdowns. And this is the baseball nerd in me. It's like how many enemies did you kill? How many dungeons did you run? How many fates did you do? And then just for no other reason. I think they start with making XP worth something at level cap, just so that I'm like playing on my tanks or playing a job that I want to play, and then still, having some kind of fanfare when you level up. But it's a part of that season. How many levels did you level that don't in fact impact your battle, but just for fun, that offer fun weird little rewards or glamours or whatever, that it's like cool. And then at the end of the season it's like, oh, did you know that you gained 50 levels on one job for this season? How insane is that? How cool is that? Wow, look at me go. Was it better than my previous season? And then I don't know, these are just crazy ideas that I personally would love. And that's why I think the problem is that I look at these systems that are just going underutilized, and I'm just like, oh, every patch, it's like, oh, I want that. All right, so overall patch, let's break it down by content. Dungeon, let's give it a score. Chris and I typically try our reviews as buy, rent, or skip. I don't know if that really is applicable here, Chris. We haven't really done one of these things yet. Do we want to give it like a letter score,
I mean, I think it's would you run it over and over? Is it worth running once, or do you wish that you could literally just play on into 5.0 and never experience this? So I think that's kind of the buy rent skip, would be kind of how I'd parlay that over. So Tham, kind of in those three categories, like where in that spectrum, where do you see that falling? Is this a dungeon you would run literally every day until it's gone?
If Swallow, I'll say this: if Swallow's Compass was my dungeon that I get for Expert Roulette, I'd be happy forever. Mm-hmm. It is visually appealing. It has beautiful music. It has beautiful atmosphere, and I can run it as either role. I have all the roles, tank, healer, DPS. I already have all of them unlocked. So, what I actually end up doing with my FC mates, actually on the night of the release of the patch, we end up getting the dungeon, and we actually end up just mixing up a bunch of roles here and there. I end up healing, and we have people go like tank and 2 DPS, 2 tanks and DPS, sometimes accidental Qs and stuff like that. And it was just fun just to spam it over and over, get some glamour, be able to cap out in mendacity. It was just a visually appealing dungeon, and finding ways to maximize on being able to complete it faster, be able to complete it more efficiently, be able to even test out the DPS of the Astro. Now that Astro can finally properly DPS, fantastically, Malefic 3, right? Is that what it is? I think. Mm-hmm. The basic cast.
Well, and also you get light speed with freaking
and
gravity.
Light speed buff as well. Exactly. Oh, it's so good. It's so freaking good. I love it. But yeah, it was just overall really fun just to test out for the dungeon. Honestly, if I get that for Expert, I'll be more than happy.
Chris?
I think that it's absolutely on pace with Stormblood. The 4-man dungeons have been wonderful. I wish it was a little bit harder, but the transitions are beautiful. The bosses are interesting. I feel exactly the same. I could play this in my roulette every other day all the way until 5.0, and I don't think I'd be bored of it.
Mm-hmm. I love the dungeon's visual aesthetics, obviously with the various elements, and I loved how they played that in. I love that we get to go outside as well. The dungeon I thought was very surprising because I was like, you kind of go in the circle to start, and then you go in, and then it takes you outside, and then you're running around there. I really loved the theme and the music of the dungeon and the boss fights. I thought they were fun. They brought in some, fun and interesting mechanics that was really quite sustainable. I think this is one of the best dungeons I've played from them in a long time. I think, when you look at kind of the dungeons that they've released, their quality has definitely gone up. Obviously, our quantity of dungeons has gone down, and I'm fine with that trade. I'm fine with that trade-off. I think the only thing that the system in itself in the dungeon lacks is some form of additional hierarchy, which you could kind of do, for WoW, for better or worse, WoW's mythic system, in which that you kind of have the ability to say this now, all these dungeons, because we have so many dungeons that hey, now they're all leveled up, and boom, now we're going to put in modifiers that, you don't want to do AoE pools, or, the only, who knows what, you could come up with all kinds, but now the biggest thing that I like about the dungeon is the question is will we get a Geomancer in 5.0 based off of the teases? And I still don't think so. I think this is typically they've teased in the past. It's usually a character that's playing a certain role or job, when they did Ninja, when they did we're at Red Mage, etc. So the question is that is this a tease lore wise for a job for 5.0, or is Yoshi P trolling and be like, let's do some Geomancer, because it's been in with the Astro. So speaking of the Astro changes and Geomancy, it's you have Astro Legends of the Stars, Geomancers are about the Earth, and so you look at and they're more elemental, like a conjurer, I guess, but regardless. So I think from the dungeon perspective, this is definitely one that you want to get in your rotation. I think anything you do 100 times, no matter what's going to lose its flavor and excitement. But all in all, I think I was really, really quite impressed with this dungeon itself. Okay, job changes, guys. So I have not got to play around with Dark Knight yet, but I've been playing with my Astro, and I'm very satisfied with that. I haven't heard much, so if you guys have heard complaints about some of the changes, let me know. But let's talk about those job changes. Thamriyell?
Dark Knight, as far as I understand, the only beneficial thing that a regular player would have when playing Dark Knight is the defensive buffs in particular. Mm-hmm. Some buffs that are done to Dark Passenger still confusing because it just increases the potency for it and maybe makes it enhance it a little bit, but it doesn't counter the fact that it's a large mana dump for the Dark Knight. Maybe the top tier 1% of Dark Knights will find a way to maximize it and utilize its abilities and the new changes, especially the offensive buffs, in order to get a more solid and more potent opener out. But the basic player will only benefit just from the defensive buffs. That's about it. The new defensive buffs they got is pretty solid, but like Yoshi said and announced, it will take him about 6 months of time to actually reward Dark Knight properly in order to actually implement. It is nice though. It is nice to know that they are indeed listening to the community about the suggestions and maybe even considering a lot of them as an implementation process. Because otherwise, Yoshi probably would have said, "Nope, sorry, we can't do it." But he actually came out and said, "Look, it would take us about 6 months to properly work and balance out and make sure it can be rolled out." So there is a possibility that they may actually roll out the changes before patch 5.0.
That would be insane. Like that would be the first time that's really happened outside of them adding Ninja, which I know that's like the job stuff. It takes a lot of work on their end.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of just under the impression that we'll see something like that for 5.0, where it's like, especially if we get any new tanking job, that they're going to look at the tanks and they're going to try to balance and adjust them accordingly. Have you played around with like Black Mage or any of the other jobs?
Black Mage I don't have leveled. Monk I don't have leveled. Samurai I noticed a potency.
Samurai is so good.
Nice overall. Astral so good. Scholar has just a one minor change to
pet changes. And Code actually in chat here is saying that he's loving the Scholar pet changes, which is great.
It's nice. It's nice the fact that you can actually tell the pet to say, "Hey, stop casting that single target spell and just immediately use a cooldown." That's nice. That's actually really appreciate that. They did change. I believe I forgot which ability. I believe it was the AOE ability, the one that first heal over time on one of the EOS. If only a new scholar would be able to properly say it. But anyway, one of the fairy spells was changed from an ability to a spell or vice versa, which makes it
instant. If it's an ability, it's instant. If it's a spell, it's got a cast time.
It makes it so that it doesn't benefit from the use of Rouse, one of Scholar's cooldowns. It actually enhances the potency overall of healing for the EOS. So that might be kind of a negative thing, but overall the fact that how the abilities are pulled off, in particular for the fairy, are really, really nice. Makes it so that there's not much of a delay and you gotta wait for the fairy to just finish the cast before the fairy decides to be like, "Okay, fine, Scholar, I'm gonna go ahead and use that ability." He just immediately stops and uses it, which is a really good change.
Nice. Chris, what are your thoughts on some of the job changes? I know that you've main Black Mage, but you've been really rolling on Warrior right now. So I'd love to know what have you played around with the Black Mage changes? Because I have.
I haven't played Dark Knight beyond it's still sitting at 30. And that's not hard. And so, but I have noticed I've been doing a lot of tanking, and I've been doing a lot of tanking in content that has 2 tanks. And since the patch, I have not noticed an increase in the number of Dark Knights. So I really expected it to drive more people to that. Even in like MSQ, where the rewards are incredible now. If you guys are not doing your MSQ roulette, the new increased 70 rewards for that are ridiculous amounts of tomes. So I think that it's shocking that didn't get more engagement. Now, Sparta's been running a lot with me as a Black Mage, and I have always mained Black Mage. So I've been watching him, and as a tank, I get to kind of watch everybody out there.
Mm-hmm.
And like, he is all over the place. His ability to just move back and forth, he's waiting till the last second to get as many casts off as possible. Then he's pulling himself, he's Aether manipulating to a healer. So it actually burned him yesterday in one of the polls, because I think this is an interesting kind of side note to that they're good. They're so spoiled on how fast it is now that one of the healers did not get out of the AOE, and he was waiting to push himself to that healer. So he pushed himself to that healer, and they both died.
Oh man!
And then we were in chat, and he goes, "I thought he was going to get out of it, and he didn't." So it's really neat to see them bouncing around that much. I think it's awesome that they're pushing that much reaction time, especially when we start to talk about like the new trial and everything, where reaction time is incredibly important.
Oh yeah.
So I know that playing Astro, is amazing. I've been maining Astro as my healer for this, and I haven't really been playing a lot. So coming back, kind of had like, okay, where's this at? Where did I put this? I had to almost go watch one of my guides to be like, okay, where did I put my skills? Need to remember. But the light speed buff is so good, and being able to do that with gravity and not have that damage fall off, it is something that I'm like, yes, use it all the time. It's always up, rolling with it, and it feels so fast. If the job feels like it should. If it's supposed to be the time mage of Final Fantasy, it feels very, obviously playing around with the time elements. The black mage just boom boom boom, ping ponging everywhere which way. That it was really exciting to see. A lot of fun to be able to play around with that. Dark Knight is something I'm looking to go check out again. I went from Paladin as my main to Warrior with those changes, and then I was a Dark Knight main in the 3.0 series. So having all tanks option leveled is always fun. So I want to go check it out. It's not anything like I was hoping for Dark Dance to make a return, because I always thought that was a really cool ability when coupled with Dark Passenger, because then you could blind and you could have your dance. So basically you were kind of like an invasion tank with that. And with those two things kind of missing, it's kind of like, well, that's something that I found fun as about the job in 3.0 that I've missed in 4.0. So I haven't got to play around with it. But all in all, I think people seem to be generally satisfied. Outside of people still want some big works for big changes for Dark Knight, and just like you said, Tham, Yoshi said that's going to take some time. He's aware of those requests. I'm betting that they're going to look at that as it relates to if they introduce a tank in 5.0. How Dark Knight, Paladin, and Warrior, and whatever the theoretical fourth tank could be, work together, and rather than what's that?
Blue Mage.
Oh man, Blue Mage as a tank would be insane. Yeah. But that's neither here nor there. I want to get to before we move into kind of talking about the story and really spoiling it and giving our thoughts on it. I want to go around the room for the raid. I have not played it, so I do not have any insight into it. I've seen it played. It looks beautiful, but I loved it. That red chocobo quest was entertaining and challenging. But Tham, what are your thoughts on the new 24 man?
Ooh, as somebody who recently played Final Fantasy XII, the remake that they put out for PS4. Being able to go back, it's the lighthouse is pretty much the same thing that you actually get to experience and go through in Final Fantasy XII at some point. Mm-hmm. It's towards the end, but still really nice. Being able to revisit a slightly different version of that same tower with actually like different design, more like model-looking pipes, but still same like they're like almost like lamps that you got to trigger in order to allow yourself to progress. And one of the things that was really nice to me and actually was really nostalgic is seeing like there was a gap in the bridge, and it was rebuilt the same way that I remember was rebuilt in Final Fantasy XII, where just like green cubes would appear and then they would solidify into an actual bridge. And I saw that, I got so giddy. I was just like, oh my god, it's the same thing. They went back to Final Fantasy XII. Yeah. It was just nice to see like this kind of fan service be paid to Final Fantasy XII and this previous experience of this tower that you get to explore. I believe it was called something else in 12. It wasn't called a lighthouse. It was called Redoran something. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Redoran something. Pharaoh, something like that. I it's been a while since I played it. I'm terrible with names for places. I just know what it looked like and what I experienced. And what I experienced was fantastic.
I just remember all the cockatrices that were up in there.
Oh yeah, there we go. Thank you for that. Seeing the boss, one of the bosses was actually an icon, a summon that you get pretty early on in 12. The flame one, the second boss. Yeah. Seeing that one in 14, that made me really, really get it, because it's like, is a thing that I defeated in 12. It's now fighting in 14, and it's really powerful and has some crazy mechanics, and it's so bombastic. They know how to turn up a notch on the bosses every step of the way, and I feel I can appreciate a lot more than I appreciated in Hemsworth. In Hemsworth, it was very sinister, very mystical, and it did do some crazy things like with Ozma and stuff. That was really just like, it's like a wow factor. This one, the attacks, every single like particle effect, the attacks and animations just look beautiful, look gorgeous. And the best part about it, you learn by getting hit by it. So you get hit by it, like, oh, okay, so that's what I'm supposed to do. And it throws different mechanics in left and right, especially in the third boss, the Mathematica boss, the robot.
Oh, that was
oh my awesome. God. I couldn't understand it at first.
That wiped us.
Then I'm pretty sure pretty certain it killed me the first time around, and then I accidentally nailed it the second time around. I was like, okay, no complaints. I somehow figured it out. But then afterwards, after talking to the chat while I was doing it on stream, I was like, oh, that's what you did. Okay, I want to do it again now. I really want to do it again. It's so fun. Like, every single encounter so far in these alliance races, 24-man raids for Stormblood, have been nothing but like bombastic, epic feel with like these lots of AoEs, lots of stuff happening on the field that gets a lot of people confused, riled up. It feels like when you go with players that never done it before, it's like a bunch of headless chickens running all over the place, pretty much. But it feels awesome. It feels nice because it's this chaos, it's this confusion, panic happening, and you're part of that. And persevering through it regardless, and be able to come back with some amazing Helu Limbic 3s where like entire party gets resurrected back again, or the entire alliance gets resurrected back again. Twice, yeah.
In one pull.
It's amazing. It feels great. It feels challenging, yet it feels awesome at the same time. I love it. The feel of it is so good. It's like watching a Marvel film, pretty much, with just like straight up action, explosions everywhere. It's so fun. It's a blast.
Chris, what do you think?
I don't think it was as hard as 4.1's. I was actually able to get a clear eventually, as opposed to 4.1. I played it that whole day and I did not get a clear. So I think that it was easier to learn in that like the mechanic hit you hard enough that you knew what was killing you, as opposed to in 4.1, people didn't quite grasp why they were dying. They just couldn't wrap their head around the mechanics. And so they would just die to the same thing over and over and over. And then eventually everybody gives up and leaves. So I thought that it was a lot clearer. That's one of the things I've always really admired about 14 is that they, in general, communicate mechanics very, very well. I thought the bosses were creative and inventive. I think the math thing, once again, proves every time somebody says, well, we've seen every mechanic in an MMO, and now it's just going to be a rinse and repeat and layering them in new and unique ways with just graphical, pretty stuff. And it's like, that's not true. I've never done a fight like that. I thought it was awesome. It shocked me how long we were in there because we got out and I was like, I can't believe that I just spent 2 hours on this. Like, where did my time go? I had so much fun.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm glad I got a week 1 clear. I haven't always had time to do that because week 1 clears, there is something, like you said, Tham, there is something, even if you've seen the guide, there's just something about getting it clear when, first of all, people are not out gearing the content. And second of all, even if they've seen it, that's not the same as doing it. So you're not like the one guy off here making a mistake while everybody else is running in like unison. There is literally moments where I watched somebody run that direction. I was like, they're about to die. Like that is the only direction you can't run. And they're running straight into something and then it's just smack and down they go. It's like, that is so funny. Had a blast.
I'm really looking forward to being able to hopefully play that this weekend once I wrap up all of my work responsibilities. But with that, guys, I want to start walking into spoiler territory. I want to talk about the story. Okay. So for chat, just be warned for also anybody watching here on YouTube, if you don't want the story spoiled, if you don't want any of that spoiled, please come back and check this video out after you've experienced it. And that's what we're going to say on that. So you've been warned. Spoiler, territory. We're gonna talk about it, and
put a time code up for at the end.
Yeah, well, exactly. And when we're done, we'll also put a time code if you want to just skip to the end as well. So story-wise, guys, I'm gonna jump in because I didn't have anything to say on the Lighthouse for the most part. I think it redeemed itself. After we fought, I'm gonna butcher her name, but just say Yotsuyu. I thought her story was they're sympathetic, but I find when you look at kind of the Tale of Two Cities kind of concept with Fladola. Man, I hate these names, but I'm so bad at it. But you know who I'm talking about, the warrior that's imprisoned in Almingo. Yeah, and so. Fladola. There we go. That's better. I just think that she's a stronger character, and when I look at her, I wasn't interested in, especially the trailer. Like it's like, okay, like the only question I had is she faking it, or has she legitimately lost her memory? And okay, so she legitimately lost her memory. And there was one moment that I think I found her as a character interesting. One moment. And that was when she was deciding to take her own life before her parents show up. Because she remembers who she is, and she also has the relationship with Gosetsu, and she feels bad. She feels remorseful, and she doesn't know how to rectify that, so she feels like the only way is to take her own life. Obviously, the rest of that has been planned. I don't see how that plan comes together in any literal way. I think the ambassador is lucking into all of it, because it's like, okay, they make him seem like he's got some kind of grand plan. The guy, and they do that whole video thing, like visual thing, where he's like, I'm talking crazy, and like my eyes look different and I look evil. It's like, well, you're doing that because you're trying to remind the audience that the guy's apparently like evil in this regard. So that was really heavily annoying. And that's just my, like, I hate when they do that in like, even in the show 24, like somebody's like completely like awesome and outstanding, but then they cut to some point where like, oh, now we're going to reveal that they've been the bad guy the whole time, and then every scene after that with them, they're all like, now I'm creepily sneaking it, now it's obvious that I'm doing something I'm not supposed to, when before it's a Hollywood thing. It annoys me. I'll leave it at that. But I think that her obviously her parents being her tormentors, I think all of that was just so cliche. I think her turning into a primal, an icon or whatever, and that being kind of the goal of it. It's like, okay, like when they're like, oh, we don't want to show you this in the trailer because it's spoiled. It's like, who else is it going to be? That's just my impression. Who else are we going to fight? There is, and then obviously the conflict that Hien has, the Fish King, as Chris was calling him on stream.
He has the same head scar as the Namatsu.
Yeah.
They have the same head scar in the same spot.
And he loves to
we
swim.
meet up with pirates, and he talks about how much he loves swimming and that he hasn't been in the water enough.
So that's
he's a fish lord.
He's the fish lord. He's a Namazu in disguise, guys.
Can't be trusted.
No, but it's like, and then his like, well, they're all afraid of her memory returning and her being this evil person, and then she just, her memory returns, and then, so the only, I think, redeeming interest was that her guilt in conflict with her new memories and her old, but then obviously she, kills her parents, goes full, dark side, something dark side. And then obviously the summoning, I thought it was like fascinating, like these boxes, the whole, like they obviously, like the ambassador from 4.2 revealed, like, it's like, hey, we want to fix this, we want to work together, it's a whole new empire, and then obviously at the end of it he's like, I love Xenos and you're the warrior light and I hate you, and it's like, okay, well, great. Like there was so much foreshadowing that I just did not feel that then. So, like, I just didn't enjoy that piece. I'm glad it's resolved. I'm glad she's dead. Like, Brian went dark. No, it's just like, I'm done with that. Like, but then, we finish it. And then that's when I was, like, completely surprised. I thought it was going to be like, all right, we wrap up and then whatever. No, but then we shift into Alphino going with the Empire, and that one guy, the Emperor Soldier, seems outstanding, and I hope they don't like here is outstanding guy, and then all of a sudden he's like, I've been working for Xenos the whole time. It's like, I don't want that. That's what I'm really afraid of. But I like that they have that relationship, and I like that he's traveling with him, and I love that we got to play as Alphino in that fight. That
was really cool.
That was so cool. And then it's like, obviously, and then we meet.
Did anybody else have trouble finding the guy underneath the debris? I ran around that zone for like 4 minutes. I'm out in the desert.
I was mostly just like running around, just checking out the desert, because I be able to be in this area that we didn't get in Stormblood, and now we actually get to explore even a little bit of it. I was like, oh, I kind of want to run around and just see what I can find. Eventually, I'll video find the guy. It did take me a while to locate him as well.
It brings into, so it really makes me feel like, because when we had Ethis on the podcast talking about how people really aren't aware that there's this civil war brewing in the Empire, and that really started to make its manifestation here. There are, we're the Empire's, returning, and then we're fighting the Empire itself. There's obviously some kind of struggle, and then obviously the big reveal, which I'm going to say it's Gaius, because I think that's the general idea, but we see his face. Fascinating. He's hunting down the Asians. Yes. Can we get back to the main point of what's all of this, and it's Asians, right? They are these like behind the scenes jerks who we hate, and they're just like they're not afraid of death, and they take over people's bodies, whether they're alive or dead. Don't know if they took over Xenos' body. Well, who cares? Like, but he is a Asian hunter now, and that is so freaking cool that I said that whole part redeemed all of 4.3 from a story and presentation. That was so exciting and interesting and new that I now, because he's not revealing his name to Alphino because he recognizes Alphino. But as far as it goes, like, and then, but again, when they cut to the belt and he's got the freaking masks that he's hunting these guys down with, I cannot wait to learn more.
Same.
Anyway, that's that's what I'm saying. I was like, all right, cutscene. Oh, it's funny. She's bringing him fruit and giving him baths and comedy. All right.
It was weird.
Yeah,
we walk in and they're like, oh, the old man hasn't felt up to his fighting strength because there's a woman who's had amnesia that's young and bringing him fruit and rubbing him naked.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else thinks this is weird.
Yeah.
I don't follow story enough, so like I don't have any like invested preconceived notions like, well, they couldn't do that. And I'm like, no, they could. They could be doing that. We're just leaving them back in these rooms for days.
Alone. I think that was the reaction that I had to that was the same reaction that the characters in the room, like, what? And, she just comes in nonchalant, take off your clothes. It's like, so there was comedy there. I don't think it personally for me hit on that level of laugh out loud. Some of the other characterizations and stories have had me just rolling. So they definitely can deliver that. It just, for me, comedy's hard, so it didn't hit for me. Thamriyell, I've been talking a lot. I'd love to know your thoughts now on the story.
I gotta defend my girl Yotsuyu here. I gotta defend
Okay,
her.
go ahead.
So the whole moment about how she she's acting, it feels like she rolled back to the whole like infantile stage, almost like a helpless little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Because she ended up forgetting everything that happened over the Doma Castle, everything that she's done, even her own identity. She even is not able to, take care of herself as well as she should be, which is why Gosetsu watches after her. She even reverts back to like very kid-like mannerisms and, I guess even ways of speech. I don't know.
Which is weird. That's not how amnesia works.
I accidentally had the language set on straight up Japanese, and I'm no expert, but I decided whatever, we're gonna weeb out on stream, we're gonna experience the story together in the original like dialogue, subs versus dubs kind of thing. It's whatever. I just decided why not. But stream was fine with it, so I was fine with it, so it's whatever. Accidental thing just kind of turned into a thing. And no, I'm not gonna claim I'm no expert, but in the mannerism when she talked, it felt very like not proper, very like kiddish. So clearly she was like not herself. She felt like she reverted back to a very infantile, almost like mentally almost not an infant but like a little kid. Yeah. She's very very innocent, oblivious to things going on around her, has flashes of a memory like wish she done something and everything, like from Gosetsu's scars on his back from the gunshot wounds and stuff. So clearly she's remembering portions of it, but she's not able to rationalize it. And even her act of going out, outside of the enclave in order to find the persimmon. I'm not sure what persimmon really is, but apparently it's a fruit. I personally had no idea. But her act of going out to the village and trying to find the fruit and everything, that was just her way. It wasn't well thought out, but it's something that you think a little kid will probably do. It's like, oh, they mentioned that, I should probably go get it to give them something nice and stuff. The role that Asahi played in this patch in particular, he was so conniving. It's like, I'm not sure if any of y'all watched Game of Thrones, but this character named Joffrey is the kind of character that people loved to hate because he was so sinister and such a cruel human being. How he treated others was despicable, but his actions, they weren't right, but you can kind of tell why he was doing that, because he was allowed to do that for so long. He let the power that was landed into his lap consume him, so he felt like he could do whatever he wanted. Asahi is in a very similar way because of the way that him and his sister Tsuyu were raised with the parents and stuff, and how the parents treated her. It kind of ingrained in him that she was a lesser and he was a greater. So he felt he could do whatever he wants to her, which kind of unleashed and revealed this very sadistic side of him that I loved to hate. He had this fascination with Xenos because of how powerful he was, and that's why he idolized them, and he was jealous that his sister was able to be the viceroy and was able to get so close to Xenos and become so powerful because Xenos allowed her to be powerful. Because she had opportunity to lend to her life, she went with it to screw over the rest of the Domans and go with the Guardians to become the viceroy, and eventually end up abusing people of Yangsha and all the Domans and stuff. And that whole dichotomy between Asahi and Yotsuyu, that was interesting to see like transpire once she actually gained back her memories and she was about to take her own life. And then the parents entered the scene and she kind of went through, I felt like either a self-realization of who she really is, as well as a mind break to really complete her full transformation back. That was intense. I loved seeing this, like how the lights went dark, the colors went very like black and white, and there was this dark shadow under her eyes. That the lighting in particular for that scene was beautiful. It was
they framed that scene. They set that scene very, very artistically. Very like it communicated so much just without even words. So I definitely agree with you there. Exactly. I do say though that it's like. Because even Snow Goes Ham in the chat is bringing up the concept that she could have changed it. She could have not chosen all those things. So it's like I think if there's the argument that we're saying that it's because of her abusers that she is evil, etc. It's like no, it's like she, people are abused and. They don't necessarily go out and commit genocide against a whole nation. It just
what ended up happening to her. This want for vengeance. She never realized she wanted to take revenge on the people of Doma and the cruel fate that she was landed when she was little. She didn't know why she experienced it. She just was dealt with a fate. She'll roll with it until there was a point where she started questioning why she had was dealt this fate and was getting fed up with it. And when opportunity to betray the Domans and enact revenge upon them as member of the Guardians and as a viceroy, she took the opportunity because she wanted vengeance. And even like towards the since we're already spoilering and everything, towards the end of the trial in particular, the things that she says completed why she was going out, the initial reason why all this vengeance was built up in the first place. It wasn't because it was partially because of the Domans and how foster parents treated her, but also in a way that somebody like Asahi, this manipulative, this sadistic human being, he could have helped her. He could have been there to help her, but no, he actually played onto it. He was kind of, I guess, an object for her to enact vengeance upon eventually that inspired her to want to truly take vengeance upon. And him trying to uncover this side of her back to, from Tsuyu to Yotsuyu, kind of enacted this one for vengeance again, which is why she was blinded to it, which is why she was even able to, willing to risk her life to summon a primal and actually, turn herself into a primal. And Asahi, the whole time, you think he is the mastermind behind the whole thing, but no, he just blindly following Xenos, or what we assume to be Xenos. He's a blind fanboy. That's all he is, but he's
a coward. He grew up in an abusive home, and he had to wonder if they weren't going to pick on her, were they going to pick on him? So he's always going to seek that position of power
over her
as
because
this coward. Because
I don't want to be picked on. So.
He knows how easy it would be to be on the other side of that.
You look at it, and that's how
the moment she's down, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to shoot her, and now I'll be the hero in this new reality. Like I'm just going to keep pivoting to whatever." Keeps me from getting shot.
And even in his reaction with Xenos or parent Xenos or whatever the whoever's walking around in his body or whatever that ends up being, which I'm excited to learn more. Finally, that's I think starting to make some form of direction and things like that. But you're right. Like no, it's that from his perspective, it's that whatever gets like if we can pick on anybody, we can do all this. And it's just that he is weak. He is a coward. He doesn't have real power, and I think he knows it. And anytime he can try to manipulate the things to his thing, and that's where it's like he was in and out. Like it's like when they introduced him, when we just met him in 4.2, and he's done. It's like okay, that's where it's like from my perspective, it's that.
He's a shallow character.
He was
I don't like just as far as character writing goes. There wasn't any depth there. They didn't write any conflict
He never meant to. I don't feel like he meant to be a deep character. He just meant to be almost like a tool for Xenos to use, and this set piece that allowed us to progress the story further and allowed everything to transpire. It was more. I feel like he was more of use as a piece to progress Yotsuyu's character a little bit more and kind of talk about her original like want for vengeance and how it all transpired. He was more of a side character in particular. He wasn't a main centerpiece, but he did set up in particular what is to come in patch 4.3, especially towards the end of this, like the last interaction of 4.2 between you know, the Warrior of Light and him.
I was disappointed they wrapped her up so neatly. From a story standpoint, I would have liked to see her vengeance carry us into 4.5 and be the spark that led into a civil war. I would have liked to see something more depth than just I'm gonna kill people and then die all in one episode. Like, I would like to see her slowly realize who she was, slowly say, can I be somebody different, and become a third faction that's just there to just make sure that we punish each other as much as possible.
I think that's where Fladola is an interesting character, because the question is that, and then I asked this like on the Aetheryte Radio podcast, is that we have these two characters, can they be redeemed? You know, it's like you have these characters both similar, like Fladola, you know, she suffered, you know, especially as a child with the occupied territory and her father and all of that. You know, so it's like you look at her and the question is, can these characters, can these women, both women, can they be redeemed? Do they have that ability? And I think it comes down, I think the answer is that yes, it's gonna, but it takes an extreme amount of effort. And what we saw here is we saw somebody have that question. We saw that with her in her suicide attempt, and then essentially decide that no, you know. And then I think with Fladola, we're going. Hopefully, we see the contrast. Hopefully, we see the character that it is hard. It's going to be hard. People are going to hate you for what you did, and you're going to own that. But you're going to own that, and eventually find that redemption that maybe you seek. I hope we see that as a contrast between the two, Doma and Almingo. As it goes, Chris, I want to let you chime in. From you're not typically a story guy, but you dove into this part of the story.
Just from a depth standpoint, like as somebody who likes Yosetsu, Tham, like I'd be interested in kind of getting your perspective on this. But she obviously was very bright and very capable to be in the position she was, where she becomes this big, right? The things she did was terrible, but they're also incredible. She was able to wreak mass havoc, and that takes a level of intelligence and a level of forethought and a complete lack of empathy and you know, an ability to find your own morality. And then she loses that with this amnesia, and then she gets it back, but kind of on her own terms, right? She realizes who she is, and she decides how to engage with that. So first thought is, well, I can't engage with it, so I'm just going to end it. And then she decides, no, I am going to engage with it, and I'm going to take vengeance on everybody who helped create this monster that I was by becoming the monster I was as a tool. I was disappointed that somebody who was capable of wreaking such havoc took such a short-sighted vengeance there, where it's like, I'm just going to put myself in a room and kill my brother, and that's going to be enough. And it's like, why would she not have thought a more long-term? She caused all of her damage in one room. She could have done so much more.
She could have. I feel like Yotsuyu never really had much of a chance. She already crossed that line long ago. So this is, in a way, it's gonna sound a little bit odd to say, but I feel like it's kind of like karma. She got, you know, she wreaked all this havoc. She destroyed the people, you know, the home of Domans and everything. She allied herself with the Guardians and wreaked havoc on her own people that she, you know, learned to hate and despise and want to seek vengeance upon, you know, want to wreak havoc upon. So I feel like she already crossed that line. What was the other girl's name you said?
Fladola.
Fladola, she still has a chance. She still has a chance. She still has redemption because she hasn't crossed the line of extreme. I'm pretty sure Yotsuyu have caused lots of genocide for her people as well, and have actually, in fact, certainly has tortured many people. She crossed the line of no return. So there was going to be one way for it to really end in particular, unfortunately. Asahi forced that as well, which is unfortunate as well, but the reason he forced that is because his obsession with Xenos and his jealousy towards sister. But that kind of shows the dark underbelly of what exactly has happened. It makes me feel sad that happened to Yotsuyu, but like I said, she kind of crossed the line. So Dola has the chance, she still has the opportunity because she haven't crossed that line of absolute immorality. She has the ability to redeem herself, and I kind of hope she does without her being killed off towards the end of X-Pac. I feel like it's going to happen, but...
I think Asahi could have been turned into the icon. I think she could have turned him in and said, you want power, I'll give you power, knowing that the Warrior of Light will kill him. And then that's her vengeance. Because that would have given us a chance to carry her on through a few more patches to explore the new conflict. Because now she has this inner conflict between a person she remembers that was happy with Gosetsu and a person that she remembers being so upset.
Right, it's not like her
she
memories.
built all this inner conflict, and then we resolved it in like an hour.
You see it in the fight. You see it in the fight itself.
Months.
You see it in the fight itself with Gosetsu defending her against Xenos. You know, in that dream state, which I thought was beautifully done in that case.
A little more than 15 minutes would have been nice to explore it.
I agree. Yeah. I want to pivot a little bit to talking about our boy Gaius. You know, so the concept is that Chris, you've actually done the main scenario quest was they don't let you skip cutscenes, so there is some context that you have with Gaius. I have always enjoyed Gaius as a villain because my argument is the best villains see themselves as the savior. You know, I'm villainous and evil and I'm going to wreak destruction. You know, okay, but no, the best villains are like, no, you don't get it. Like, I'm here to help you guys. I'm here to save you from your ways. And that never really goes over well. You know, like, hey, all right, I see you worshiping these icons, these eidolons, these primals. And they're like, no, we're good. And it's like, okay, no, you don't get it. You're killing the planet, you know. And so he's coming in at that perspective, right? Obviously making the relationship with the Asians. You know, if for some reason the guy that they show at the end is not Gaius, which would be just weird.
They gotta be.
It has to be. Well, because it makes sense. Like, who would hate the Asians more than the guy who was betrayed by them? You're like, okay, well, I'm going to make this deal. We're going to work on this. Oh, you're helping me find the ultimate weapon and all that stuff. And then wait, like, what's happening? You're leaving me to die, etc. So it's like you look at this guy and he's like, he doesn't seem to have an emperor. Like, he seems to be like, I'm a nomad and this is what I do, you know. And I'm so excited to learn more about him as a character, because you can think about it, like, you know, if he sees himself as the good guy, you know, and if he always has seen,
I think he's a Ronin who has his own form of morality, but that if he had a cause again, he would join it.
Mm-hmm. And the question is that going to be something that lines up with us?
Possibly. I feel like Gaius, see, his original motivation in Patch, you know, in Rama Born storyline was, in a way, just because he was trying to just simply look out for, you know, making sure that the icons will not be summoned again, because obviously, you know, probably the calamity has caused a lot of people to have a self-realization. Hey, we don't want anything similar to that. We can havoc on the rest of yours here, and you know, the rest of the, you know, good lord, what do they call the continent again? What was it?
There's man, well, I want to say Alphano, but that's not it. There's two great continents, or there's actually three great continents. There's oh gosh,
Heidelin.
Well, Heidelin's the planet. And then you have
But yeah, anyway, in general,
Ardenal. Thank you, Sparta.
On their star, as I remember they described, on the star. Make sure to protect their star that they are on right now. The planet, the continents, the place they live on. They understand, you know, he probably went through a realization that, hey, this must be stopped. So we should try to, you know, access this weapon that, you know, the Asians helped us locate and, you know, influence us to, you know, utilize in order to make sure we can stop these icons, these promise from being summoned, from being utilized. And then got burned severely towards the end of the main story quest line. And then he was just gone. Nobody knew exactly what happened to him. He was just presumed dead. But seeing him come back in this storyline in particular, and having all these masks in particular, I feel like it's going to start an epic revenge storyline, an absolute revenge storyline that actually makes me appreciate and actually learn a little bit more about Gaius. He's not going to be the protagonist. He's going to be the biggest anti-hero we'll ever understand, because he clearly has no qualms about hunting down Asians and slaying them and collecting the masks and stuff. The one part though, and it made me realize that it definitely could be Gaius, is when it pan out through the masks. There's one mask, the white mask, looks very similar to Gaius' original helmet, where it's like they had the cutoff for the eyes and stuff. I looked it up and I just went bonkers on Steam. I could not handle it. I don't know. I was just hollering in all excitement. But I'm hoping it's gonna start a really gritty anti-hero kind of storyline with him and see how it transpires, and maybe even see a little bit of story bits happen over in the capital as well. That'd be kind of cool.
Well, I was kind of, when Alphano said that he was going to go, I was like, is 5.0 like the it's like 5.0 rescuing Alphano because he's going to the capital, and that's what. And now he's joined up with this band, and it's about Asians, and that's where I really wanted this to get back on from a story perspective. Is that what's going on with Zodiark? What's going on with the calamities? There's 13 that have to happen. So many have happened already. So it's like, all in all, they have to have these calamities to help bring about the return of Zodiark. And I don't think that's a 5.0 thing, but maybe is that a 6 or 7.0? But we got to get that theme and we haven't seen much of them. They're always working in the shadows. And hopefully that we'll start to see more of their influence, even in the events that we've already done. Because, Chris, you say they use the Echo as kind of, it is kind of this it's a tool that we can use to help give the player information that we couldn't otherwise give them.
I wrote a beautiful form of the story and I left something out. How am I going to put that in there?
But it's like, what would be really cool to see is that like the events that we've already done, how the Asians have been influencing those directions, those decisions. How maybe the Asians influenced Asahi and Yotsuyu, and influence those characters to help make those changes, because it's like that in and of itself, I think, is where all of a sudden you realize that they've been there the whole time. We just haven't been privy to it, and hopefully with Alphano's work in Garlemald, and with this whole new kind of twist at the end, that we start really start building towards 5.0. And whatever that conflict is going to be, whatever that is going to end up being, I'm so excited. Chris, do you have any other thoughts?
No, I think that's it on story. I guess, as we start to wrap up, my one question would be, going into 4.4, what is it that you think 4.3 is setting us up for? And is there anything left in 4.3 that you think is going to be surprising? I mean, we obviously know that we're not done getting 4.3 content, because we have 4.3.1, 4.3.5, and 4.3.6 already confirmed. Kind of, Thamriyell, what are you looking forward to in 4.0?
One thing in particular, yes, one thing in particular, towards the end of the storyline, a little bit with Lise about the grave of Xenos, we see an elf, an Elzen, in particular Elzen, dressed up in the God, what are they called again? The resistance armor, right?
Yeah.
Or let me go. That has a particular samurai blade. There have been theories, major theories about who it is. I kind of feel like it could be true, but I just want that character to actually have a say in things, actually be able to verbalize and be able to make a grand entry and actually be explained a little bit more further, at least even tease a little bit towards the identity to confirm whether or not it is true. Have you all heard any speculations about that character whatsoever?
Not yet. What do you got for us?
So, the speculation, now, this could be completely false entirely, but according to speculations, Asians are able to take over bodies of people that are alive or dead, right?
Yeah.
And there's a possible thought that maybe because of how powerful Xenos really is, that he was also able to do something similar the Asians were able to do. And actually take over a body of an Elzen in particular, and be able to obtain a samurai blade, because that's a weapon he is most comfortable with. And that's just his way of finding another alternative route in order to get back to back to the capital and be able to eliminate whoever is right now acting as Xenos.
That makes sense. I mean, when you think about it, they've set that kind of concept up of both resurrection, both of those concepts, as well as that it's like if his body's already possessed, that he's able to go in, and if he's got that level of power, that'd be neat. That would be a twist. That would be a really interesting twist.
It could
if
be
your body's
also
possessed and you possess somebody else. At some point, does the story make you kill yourself?
That's the thing. I don't know how they're going to exactly play out to, or really if that's really true or not. It could be a completely different character entirely. Who even knows at this point? But if that is true, then it makes me wonder if maybe, just maybe, Xenos. I don't want to say he has the echo, but he might be a lot more powerful than we assume he is. I mean,
I thought he
clearly
does. I thought it's that, but
he's very
like
powerful.
with him and Fladola, the Empire's found a way to make basically a fake echo, but instill the power of the echo, artificially into Xenos and into like Fladola and things like that, and that's where you don't get tempered, but then also that you have these other gifts. And then Yoshi P, has said that we don't fully understand, like they haven't fully revealed all the powers of what the echo is and what it is as an essence in and of itself. So I think that that will come, and we'll have the full knowledge of what the echo actually is outside of just as a flashback mechanic.
Part of me feels like maybe the echo could be. Now, this is just a hypothesis from playing time-related games before, like Steins Gate and stuff. Not sure if any of you heard about that, but makes me wonder. Maybe the echo lets you see an alternate, like not really an alternate storyline, but maybe a same event that's being repeated in a previous era in particular, rather than just seeing in the past. Possibly, maybe. So maybe like all these events actually transpire before it just going through a repeat cycle, similar to kind of like how Mass Effect 3 has like a repeat cycle of like the Reapers coming in, wiping the Earth, and then everything just kind of goes through a cycle. Maybe, possibly, but that's just honestly, there's no proof to it. It's just honest speculation of like, what if it could be, but there's no proof to it. So I guess we'll see. We'll see if Square answers us in the future, but. Who knows? Who knows for now?
That we will. All right, guys. That's our spoil section of it itself. The that pretty much is it. Like I'm overall, I think I want more out of 14. I'm happy with 4.3. I'm really excited now for 4.4. 4.3 at the end of the story piece has me really excited for the rest of this year's content. That they did a really good job. They landed it. And I've said that, and I'm very excited about that. But I want to go ahead and, Tham, do you have any projects or anything you're working on? Any shout-outs? Any promos or whatever that you wanna share? Floor is yours.
Project shout-outs, promos. Honestly, I don't know. I'm just gonna be doing my own thing. By the way, just for y'all, and maybe for the stream if you're interested as well. Dauntless. It's going to be coming out. It's already out right now on an open beta. Do y'all want to play by any chance? It's kind of like Monster Hunter. I know Mr. Happy been playing it, and Eth has been pushing it pretty hard. And I also believe Sly is also going to be playing it as well. So maybe y'all will be down for it. Maybe we could play it sometime. It'd be kind of cool. I'm not sure if they have a Mac release, but definitely a PC release. They might have a Mac release sometime. Maybe.
Poor Chris.
I'm sorry. You gotta hit them up. Be like, hey guys, release a Mac version. Maybe, possibly.
Yeah, that'd be pull together and each send me a computer part. We'll get there.
ESO would be kind of cool to explore for sure. I mean, I don't know. I'm just gonna be doing my own thing. Main channel, MMO stuff. Maybe experimenting with other games. Second channel, just VR chat, more VR chat.
Yeah.
It's addicting. I'm not even kidding.
The guys, be sure to follow Thamriyell. His tag on Twitter is below his name right there. Also, be sure to check out his YouTube channel as well as like Thamriyell too. If you want to go see what he's talking about with the VR chat and how that goes, it's always
he does some live stuff at night, so it's pretty wild.
So I encourage you guys to go check him out as well. So for Work to Game and for the Casually Hardcore podcast, Chris will be coming back up. You're gonna be. Are you still playing some 14?
I'd like to. If we're doing any Q&A, that's great. If not, I'd like to play some. I'd like to keep playing 14.
I think what
I'm doing.
I think we'll wrap up the show, the podcast piece. We'll see if anybody in chat has any questions. We'll take those, and then Chris will be doing that on the Twitch. Here probably after this, and then I'll probably go back to work, getting some lunch as well. But anyway, guys, I want to wrap up the show here. Thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below what you're thinking, what you're feeling about the story or anything else. Hopefully we haven't ruined anything, but we'd love to know what you're thinking regarding as it relates to Gaius, as it relates to any of the elements that we talked about here on the show today. Sound off, and let's have that conversation. But for Work to Game, for Thamriyell, and for Chris, and for myself, Brian, thanks so much for watching this video. We hope to see you on our next. But until then, take care.
See ya.
I don't have a thick accent, but
when I
get around family.
Well, when I start talking with Nightmare, so it's like him and Sparta from Georgia, and it's like, man, me and Nightmare will be like, and all of a sudden I just start drawing it out, the toys, like, I'm a city boy here in DFW, but you never know, because it's like, I can get real. country.
Just say y'all.
Y'all.
Done.
Oh, I say y'all.
Yeah.
I saw howdy and
I'm gonna
y'all.
grab more water.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Get that water. Y'all. Y'all. This is the Texas Final Fantasy podcast. We're doing all kinds of fun. Thanks.
We're
Here.
going southern and fine fantasy.
Yeah,
bro.
it's like our guys. Like, listen here. Let's get
Gotta wrangle me some
Randall.
chocobos.
Get them. We got what is the you have that the hog tie, so it's the chocobo tie. I was like, all right. And then you have the bucking Broncos. Bucking chocobos.